And that's the first thing. Yeah, we get somebody new at the club, and they come. Nothing against CrossFit. It's just different style. Yeah, they're immediately banging them out. Right. I'm like, literally, I have to go sit down like
they don't
5 minutes, and they're like, huh? I'm like, bro,
it's the best thing about weightlifting.
Yeah, I literally. I was like, that's the best part of weightlifting. You get to be lazy. You get a chair.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jared Bass with Mark McCain, and you are listening to Triumph Every Day. We discuss the journeys that shape the lives of our guests and how it brought them to where they are today. And today we have Dylan Scott from Backwoods Barbell, just down the road from us. Kind of down the road from us. You're like, what, 2 exits down?
Yeah, just 2 exits.
Two exits. I
think I made it here in like 6-minute drive.
Yeah,
so.
Which in Kentucky can be, depending on where you're at. 2 exits could be 15 miles apart.
Yeah, like the Hebron Petersburg exit. What's that, like 11 miles?
Yeah, I know.
Between one exit.
I missed my exit. Now I'll see you in a half hour.
Yeah.
So, where are you originally from, Dylan?
So I was born and raised right here in Hebron, Boone County. My family has been out there since like the late 30s. I grew up in the same house my grandpa grew up in, or my mom grew up in. Stayed local, bought a house a mile down the road from the farm, and ended up becoming a fireman for Hebron, where I was born and raised, and have no plans of ever leaving.
I think something actually cool about that, because a lot of people, how old are you right now?
I turned 29 in a few weeks.
All right, so we're all roughly around the same age. I think a lot of people in our age range is this like, get out, go do something, and then, but it's funny because then you watch, these little snippets about Ethel's been making the same biscuits and gravy for 49 years, and they're the most amazing. And it's like, but that's what it takes to like perfect something. And there's no shame, if you will, in like being in love with where you're from.
Yeah, I think that's like, you said we're pretty close in age. I know like a lot of my buddies out of right out of high school, they went to college somewhere, maybe in state or even if it went out of state, but they had that dream of like, oh, I'm gonna go to California, I'm gonna go to New York or whatever, and. To me,
I think traveling's important.
Yeah, but I'm saying like, they think that, oh, there's nothing going on in Boone County or Northern Kentucky. I'm like, well, if you don't think something's going on here, make something happen. Yeah, right. I don't know. And for me, like I had a lot of family ties in this area, and I didn't want to leave it. And I just,
one of my favorite responses, because a lot of people will say that about Cincinnati. I know Mark's from a pretty small town, and I'm from Cincinnati area, so like still a small city, but not necessarily a super small town, but. Just one of those things like, Cincinnati's so boring. It's like, have you ever been to the top of Crew Tower? That's always my first ask. And it's like, it's $2, and it's one of the coolest views you can possibly get of the city. And it's like, you haven't even begun to scratch the surface of the things that are even around you. You just have this tiny worldview of like, well, this is boring. It's like, it doesn't matter where you're from. It's what you're doing.
The world, I just heard this quote recently, the world reflects what you project, right? So if you're projecting negativity all the time, guess what? You're going to see negativity. But if you're a positive person, I mean, let's be honest. Like you said, you can grow up wherever you grow up. If you're positive, it's going to reflect positivity. It's just a mindset.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I don't know. I've traveled a lot, but I always, every time I travel somewhere, I'm like, dang, I really want to go back home. Like, to me, I think it's the coolest area.
Well, there's worldview, right? Like it's important to travel.
For sure.
It's important to travel to get different perspectives on things, but the cool thing is when you do go back home and you can take those perspectives and sew them into your own kind of fabric and things like that. So, that's awesome. When did you become a firefighter?
Goodness, I started going up to the firehouse when I was in high school as like a high school intern. They had this program called Explorers. You can go up when you're under 18 and start to get training hours. You can't like ride the fire truck or go to fires, but you can get training hours. Kind of jump starts it a little bit, and then I became a college intern for Hebron as well. Right out of high school, did that for a few years, and then I got hired full time in July of 2011. So what's that, coming up on my eighth year now?
Yep.
Yeah. How has that changed with the expansion of Hebron?
Dude, I wouldn't have a job unless it was for all the expansion out there. So like, obviously, if for the listeners that don't know,
it wasn't for people setting fire to things.
Right? Yeah.
It was.
But like for those that don't know much about Hebron, the area I live in, it was a very rural community, but now it's a huge Amazon hub. So we got like the Amazon return center there. No matter where you live in the United States, if you return something, it goes to Hebron. So we have that. We have Wayfair. We have these huge companies that are there.
So what's it like doing an inspection? Do you guys do the inspections?
Dude, actually, oh yeah. So we do all the inspections of every building that we have, every commercial building inside of Hebron. And to be honest, the big warehouses that are ran by big corporations are way easier.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because usually they have a safety guy or someone that's dedicated to that.
Well,
but when you go to the mom and pop place and they got like 70,000 extension cords and every fire code in the world, it's like, oh man, like I don't want to be busting, you know.
Well, and not to mention, generally a pole barn is designed not to catch fire. You get
right. Well, yeah, they're all those big buildings are. It's called Tiltup concrete. So the walls, what they actually do is they pour a slab of concrete on the ground, and then once it dries, they just tilt it up.
Oh, wow.
So they did right off 75, right? Where 275 minutes, whatever that is out there
cool.
now.
Yeah, it's all tilt-up concrete, all of them.
Does the Amazon place 1 million square feet?
No. So in Hebron, there is 2 places that are 1 million square feet, but that's including mezzanines.
Okay.
Now I believe.
So crazy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we have like Fran is I think 800,000 square feet, and that's on one level. Jeez. And then Toyota's 1 million plus, and then Levi's 1 million plus. But I think in the area, the Wayfair building out in Florence, I think that might be 1 million now. And then the eBay one in Richwood, and then obviously the new one that they're building out by the airport. That's like a bajillion square feet or something insane.
Yeah, we were driving down the 275. This is going to be real interesting for all the people not from the area, by the way.
Right, like, what are they talking about?
I was driving down 275 the other day, and like the airstrip is separate for all the Amazon planes.
Yeah, they're gonna.
Dude, this thing was coming in. It literally looked like you could reach out and grab it. It was that loud. It was massive.
And they're so slow. They look like they're coming in so slow. Like it's gonna drop. It's gonna drop.
I know.
Taking over the world.
So going from basically starting out in high school as a kind of interning, if you will, becoming a full-time firefighter, is that just like something you always wanted to do, or is it something that piqued your interest as you started just hanging out the firehouse?
So this will sound kind of corny, but it's so now September 11th happened, and I was young when it happened, but you know that was still extremely prevalent in our lives. And as I aged, I'm like, man, like I want to do something that helps our community. And of course the first thing was military, right? I want to do military. And then I was starting to think about it. I'm like, man, you know, as much as I would love to be in the military, I don't know if that's the path I want to go down, but I still want to do something for my community. And I was like, how could I impact that town and community that I actually was born and raised in? And I was like, man, a fireman would be kind of cool. And then one of my friends in high school, he did the Explorer thing, kind of asked him about it, just started kind of going up there, and I was like, yeah, this is it, man. This is, you know, you get to, you know, you're 16 or 15, you're getting to, you know, play with all these big tools and stuff, and you're like, you know, at the end of the day, boys are boys, and it was awesome. And then I got my EMT and all that stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is 100% what I want to do. Like, there's no doubt about it. So
we're Mark, I don't know how far you are in the grit book that we're reading right now. So we read books together as coaches, and we're reading a book by Angela Duckworth right now called Grit. And I just actually passed a point in the book where they're talking about Jeff Bezos from Amazon, speaking of, and they're talking about just a crazy, quirky kid. He was kind of growing up, and he was basically skipping school because skipping after lunch in high school so that he could go talk to this professor that was letting him do experiments with draft and developing airplane wings and all this stuff. So instead of scolding him, the whole point of me saying this, instead of scolding, his mom found a way that, like, hey, let's do this legally, and then would foster these kinds of things. So like when you find the whole point of this is talking about, you know, you're not just, hey, I went to a firehouse once and I want to be a firefighter. It's these little tiny, you know, different things that happen to where you're like, oh, I think this is something I could really do with my life.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So it's just kind of relevant to what we were talking about there. Where does I don't want to jump ahead too far. Where does weightlifting kind of start to come into play?
Right? Where does that come in at? So it actually comes in from the fire department. To be a firefighter in the state of Kentucky, you have to have this card. It's called a CPAC card, Cadet Physical Agility Test. It's just a physical test to make sure that you're physically fit enough to do the job. And right now I'm like 130 pounds or 140 pounds. Then I was about the same weight, but not nearly strong. Did a practice test, failed it miserably. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to become a full-time fireman. I'm a little dude, like I'm 5'3", and part of that test is a dummy drag, and it kicked my butt. My lieutenant at the time was into fitness, and this was at the era where CrossFit was pretty much just on main site, right? There was some, at this time, the only local gym I'm pretty sure was CrossFit Kentucky, and so we would get on main site, we're like, hey, I think we found this thing, it kind of looks kind of cool, kind of played with it at the firehouse as much as, best as we can type situation. We didn't have equipment, but we tried to make our own, got into that for a little bit, started getting a little healthier. I'm like, okay, well, this is definitely showing improvement for my performance at the firehouse. So then enjoyed it a lot, ended up going up to CrossFit Kentucky, being a member there for a long time, ended up coaching there as a CrossFit coach, and pretty quickly, actually, I started to I think these snatch things and clean and jerk things are way more fun for me. I was like, the cardio, I probably should do it, but I really just want to lift heavy. So pretty common in this era of, weightlifting right now. A lot of people are coming out of that CrossFit world, and I'm one of them. So
you find your niche, right? And you find things that you can pick and choose out of the sport of, and I think the point of CrossFit is still very prevalent even in a weightlifter's world. We still do a lot of things that, wow, this feels a lot like CrossFit, but
sets of 8 squats,
exactly. Fives to 65%. You're like, well, that feels a lot like CrossFit,
brutal.
But I agree with you. Just finding those little tiny things that you can start to really dial in on, that was the big draw for me.
Right.
Because it's I don't want to say, and it sounds weird, not that everything I do is perfect, but it's I feel like I got to a point where it's I don't need to practice pull-ups anymore. I don't need to practice how to do a wall ball, but I really need to practice how to, snatch and clean.
Right. And yeah, that was the same thing, I wanted to be a good CrossFitter, and me being little as I am, I could bust out pull-ups all day, right? Because I was just little. But I was like, oh my gosh, if there's, a clean and jerk at 155 and a Metcon, I'm dead. So I did pretty much, at this time, I know a lot of people still do it. You get online, weightlifting program, first thing that pops up, Catalyst Athletics. Pulled off one of their programs, printed it off, tried to do it, butchered it to, as terrible as I possibly could, pretty much. But I was like, wow, this is actually really fun. So I just kind of started with that, and then Alex is my assistant coach. He went to CrossFit Kentucky. We started kind of lifting together, and then, there's the whole story of how Backwards Barbell began. But yeah, me and him started lifting together. Didn't really know what we were doing, but Alex had a really good fitness background and kind of took off.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I think if you really talk to anybody, that's kind of, it may be a different starting point, but a lot of those parallels are going to be exactly the same. It's wow, I really enjoy doing this, and there's not access to this outside of, Cal Strength, Cal Athletics.
Yeah.
There's a few gyms here and there that are really doing something, but I mean, for the most part, they're pulling knowledge from books from the 80s written by,
right.
Slovakians and Romanians and Russians. And so you're well, I'll just do whatever's available, and then you start to develop your own style, your own program, and it kind of really takes off from there.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. Yeah, because when that started, I definitely looked into joining a weightlifting club, and at that time, the only club in the area was Cincinnati Weightlifting.
Yep.
And I was young, broke, and I couldn't afford a CrossFit membership.
Hour drive.
Right, I couldn't afford a CrossFit membership. I was coaching for my membership, right. And I was like, well, there's no way I can afford a weightlifting membership, as much as I would have loved to. Chris Cleary's been around for a long time, and I know he's smart. I've met him. I'm like, I can't do it. So yeah, I just kind of went off of online programs, did it myself, and then I don't know if you know, I ended up going to Russia.
Cool.
Yeah, I trained over there for a month, and that's where I got a lot of my knowledge of the sport.
Yeah, what was that like?
Yeah, well, first off, how did that come about? Is that just something you kind of seeked out?
So, Dmitry Kolkov offered a international training camp. Did
he punch you in the face like that one video?
Oh, man.
Pretty much.
That's one of the best videos
Dude,
I've ever seen.
So, however intense you think he is, multiply it by 1,000.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's very intense.
I got a really good. I want you to finish, but I do have a. Speaking of intensity, I think everybody in the weightlifting world, hate him or love him, knows John North.
Oh yeah.
Everybody,
I love him.
You can hate on him, but he's done a lot for the sport. He's a psychotic, crazy dude.
He had a heart attack.
He had a heart attack.
Yeah. He died.
Did you go down to that
No,
camp? All right,
no,
so
I remember hearing the
we all
stories,
packed in this a little SUV, and 6 of us in a 5-person SUV, and drove down to North Carolina, CrossFit Steel Creek, and John and Jessica were doing a camp there, and like it was just like, hey, I think I like this stuff. And again, he's like talking about hit and catch and like all these things that like they make sense now because I know what he's saying, but like that's not the way you should be coaching people when they first start, if that makes sense. But I just remember he had, count them, 3 Trentas before lunch. He brought 2. So Trenta, if you guys are watching, it's about the size of this blender bottle. He had 2 of them, and then took his wife's, who drank about this much, and drank
the other one.
Drank the 3rd one, and then came back from lunch with like another Monster Energy.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like, I think everyone, you know, when you're coaching a big group of people, even a small group of people, and you're all doing the same drill, and you hear everybody's feet move, and it's like, bam! And it's just, it's satisfying, right? Because you start to feel people are starting to get it. I swear to God, I thought he was going to punch through a brick wall.
Oh,
like, he was that intense. Like I shook his hand, and he looked through the back of my head. Like it was that intense. Like it was that level of intensity. So I can definitely relate to that. Maybe not on the same level. So go on.
No, I mean, yeah, John North, yeah. Well, I'll get back. We'll get back to that. But yeah. John North, like, we have a TV in our weightlifting club, and I'll throw on YouTube videos. And the first thing, if someone's brand new, the first thing I do is pull up that YouTube video of John North rants and yells, and that's just an hour long. I'm like, all right, you want to know what weightlifting is? Pretty much be this guy, right?
Shankel.
Yeah, yell Shankel, so yell random nonsense.
So we did go. John invited us to come watch them train at Muscle Driver the following day.
Oh, the whole team when he was there?
The following day. So we show up at Muscle Driver. Mind you, we went out the night before. So we're all...
It was like 2011, right?
Yeah, So we are like...
brand new.
It's North Carolina.
CrossFit Nanos haven't even come out yet.
Yeah, North Carolina summer, midday. We're all extremely hungover, and we show up, and Glenn Penley is just... I mean... He's like, who the fuck are these guys? Like, what are you
up in
doing?
My gym.
What are you doing here? And John's like, I invited him. And that was the first time I'd ever seen Donnie Schenkel. And speaking of Donnie Schenkel, it's like aging myself in the weightlifting world. Like 2011 is ancient. But he pulls up in like late 80s Nissan pickup truck.
So awesome.
He's not wearing a shirt. Just pulls up, no shirt, windows rolled up. And he gets out and he's got Adidas track pants on. And just starts... And he's like, he's recovering. Penley is talking. It's like, he's recovering from an injury. And so he's doing 135, started at 135, went up to like 155 overhead squats. And I'm not exaggerating.
Kilos.
Right? Yeah, kilos. So for you non-weightlifters, it's kilos. So I'm not exaggerating. He behind the neck push presses like 150 and just starts overhead. So I was like, he's recovering from an injury.
Dude, Donnie,
his back had abs. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, that was like people were like, I'm like, oh man, Donnie's by far is my favorite U.S. lifter, and a lot of people that are new in the sport are like, he is. I'm like, dude, yeah, he's a freaking monster. And they're like literally every time he's got like a garbage belly, man. He looks like he just crawled out of a trap. You know,
if you ever watched
I'm like, no, dude, look at him on his back.
Watch that old video of him hang cleaning
200.
200.
He did it like 2 times or something.
He did a Schenkel complex.
It was hang clean plus jerk.
Yeah.
But that was right after he did the jerk at. Anyway, the jerk made him went up to 220.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that video is what so many people got into weightlifting for, right? Mm-hmm. That's all. You just watch old Cal Strength videos, man, and watch Donnie and John get crazy with it.
Yeah. So, anyways,
those guys are super
moving on. Yeah. Donnie's got his own weightlifting club now.
Second one now.
The dude's like very, very stoic. I actually went to when we had Stephen Flame on here. Went to a seminar where Donnie was at, and just Stephen.
Yeah, he could narrate a book.
Stephen hits so everybody's using pounds, 275-pound clean, and he goes to jerk it, and he dips, and it sounds like the Velcro on his shoe rips, but it's actually his patellar tendon.
Was this at Cincinnati Strength? I've heard this story.
So it's Steven, it's the owner. And so they they call an ambulance, and basically Steven's like, I'm not getting an ambulance. So they shoo them away, and literally as it happens, so if you can imagine, take your weightlifting shoe and rip the Velcro. That's what I thought. Like, I was like, like, was it Zion Williams? Like, his shoe just bust? Like, no, it was his patellar tendon ripping. And then Donnie leans back and looks over there and leans forward. He goes, well, that's unfortunate. And then he's like, all right. And then, and he's like, all right, we're going to work up to a heavy single front squat. Like, what?
So Dustin owns Triple Crown Athletics, and that's where I'm out of. And Dustin was there too, and told us the story. He's like, this dude went to go jerk, blew out his knee. Donnie looked at him, went to the next person, and goes, "Don't mind that. Go ahead, and like just like screw that guy. Do your thing." Like didn't even care.
I literally was like, "All right, let's front squat," and I was like, "Well, I'm gonna work up to about 135, and I'm done for the day."
Yeah.
All right. So, anyways, how do you get to Russia? Sorry, we're go on tangents.
I mean, anytime you're going to talk about Donnie Schenkel, I'm down.
Yep.
So, no, Kolkoff was offering the International Weightlifting Camp. It was the second one. I applied to it and got an email back, very surprisingly. Like, oh, is this real? Like, like, whatever. Like, sure, like, oh, yeah, you've been accepted to come. And I didn't believe it. So I was like, hey, I don't know if this is real. Is there any way we could Skype? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I want to see if this is actually Kolkoff.
Before you sent wire transfer over.
Well, so he said yes, like right off the bat. The first email was like, yes, you can come, send blank amount of money, well, a lot, way too much, to this random name in Russia, right? Wire transfer. I'm like, ugh. So sure enough, I'm like, can we Skype or whatever? And Alex, my assistant coach, was at the house, and he says, yes, I will call you now. I'm like, oh, all right. And sure enough, bloop. There's a Skype from Kolkoff, and I answered, and I'm like, holy shit, it really is him. Yeah. So I'm like giddy like a little schoolgirl, meeting, like their crush or whatever, and it was him. I'm like, all right, man, like I just wanted to see if this is real. Besides that Skype and that one email, that was it. So I had no idea what was going on. I sent a bunch of money. He said, be here this day. Landed at the airport. It was like, well, I hope somebody's here. Mm-hmm. I have no idea what's going on. I could just spend away a whole bunch of money. No idea. Right. Sure enough, I'm walking through the airport, and there's a big dude holding like the sign that says like, Mr. Scott. I'm like, holy crap. Is that? And it's Dmitry Berestov, the Olympic champion from Athens, right? Yeah, Athens. So I'm like, oh, all right. Well, there's an Olympic champion. I'm like, all right, I guess this is real. Pack me in somebody's car, have no idea, and just start hauling down the highway in Russia. That's how I got to Russia. There was like pretty much no information.
So what kind of stuff, I guess? What did you like? What? Because again, I know I've been through a level 1. If you've been to any seminar,
totally different.
It's I can imagine their training style is probably a little bit different. Again, because you also what you're thinking about too is like if you have a bunch of that's probably the biggest transition for anybody coming from CrossFit to weightlifting. Is like. I literally joke around, shout out to MJ because I always give her crap. It's like she'll be clicking out 80% cleans and doing touch and go. And I'm like, well, 2 things. Slow down CrossFit. Number 2, you can lift much heavier then.
Right.
Like if you're doing touch and goes like they're nothing.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the first thing, we get somebody new at the club and they come, nothing against CrossFit. It's just different stuff. Yeah. They're immediately banging them out, right? I'm like, literally, I have to go sit down like 3-5 minutes, and they're like, "Huh?" I'm like, "Bro,
it's the best thing about weightlifting."
Yeah, I literally. I was like, "That's the best part of weightlifting. You get to be lazy. You get a chair."
So, but anyways, again, what kind of stuff do we go through?
I'll just kind of explain the whole Russia thing. It was an international camp. There were people there from Lithuania, Mexico, oh my gosh, Iceland. We had people from all across the world. I think there was like 11 of us. It was really cool. So we were I would have no idea how to pronounce the city's name. We were a little outside of Moscow, about 30 minutes, at the Russian National Training Center. So if you watch any of the YouTube videos of like Kolkoff hitting, some of the crazy complexes he has, Apti, all those guys with like the wood floor and the wood paneling, that's where we were at. We got to train there. So it's their Olympic committee or their Olympic.
What's it smell like in there? In 3 words.
Surprisingly good in 2 words.
Yeah.
So I'll explain the Russian culture, but So at that facility we're at is weightlifting, basketball, soccer, and I think there was another sport. So in Russia, their Olympians or people that are trying to go are full-time. That's their full-time job. So they live there, they eat there, that's all they do.
Do their steroids there? What?
If you want to talk about that,
No,
I'll be more
keep
than happy.
Keep going.
I'll explain supplements in Russia. But no, so we went there. We got to train in the same facility that the national team trains in, and we stayed in the dorms that the national team lives in. When we were there, the national senior team was not there. It was the junior and youth team. Still absolutely insane. Some names that Olga Zombrot was there. Marcel was there. So some big time guys that were juniors, like junior world champions, were there lifting. Vladimir, the head coach of the women's national team, he was there. So there was a lot of big names, and you got to see some crazy lifting. But every day we did 2 sessions, a morning, evening session, breakfast, lunch, dinner. And then between sessions, you got massage, you could do sauna, Russian banya, cold water therapy, whatever you needed. It was there, just like the full-time guys.
What do they do for that cold water therapy?
So in Russia, it's called banya, which is a Russian-style sauna. It's a very wet sauna. Mm-hmm. You sit in there with these little crazy hats on, and Dmitry Koklov or Berestov will be half naked, and they take these branches, and they beat you with these branches while you're in this sauna. I'll have to share the link, and you can see all this. They beat you with these branches, and you're only in there for 3 minutes because you're dying. And then you open the door, and right there's this little tiny pool down in the basement, and you just run in, jump in that, and then you freeze in, and then you get back in there, and you do it 3 or 4 times. So the whole thing is about 15 minutes, and as hard as I trained there, was never sore because of the recovery they had. Good food, massages, PT, the cold water therapy, whatever you needed, you had full access to it, just like the professionals there, and that's what they're professional athletes. And so we did that twice a day, and then at evening we had seminars after practice sessions. So we had anything from Dmitry Kolkov's dad, who's a world champion, came in and actually spoke, which was the whole complex was kind of mind blown because I guess he's like a hermit, doesn't leave his house. So that was really cool. Got a history lesson on Russian and USA weightlifting and what their aspects on how these two nations have been together and how they've reacted throughout the sport. Supplements, we had training on supplements, if you know what I'm saying. Diet, nutrition, programming. Boris Shako, the world's most winningest powerlifting coach, came in and did a seminar on his programming. So maybe some pictures were taken of his programs and his volume and intensity stuff. So Mr. Universe came in, so we got some high-end people that came in and talked, and not just weightlifting, but we got cool seminars too. So, and then we of course went out downtown Moscow and
drank a lot of vodka.
I wish I could remember. So it was one of the wildest.
You ever seen that Bert Kreischer comedian?
Exactly, 100%. Russia, you do whatever you want, and when you're with Dmitry Koklov and Dmitry Berestov, actually Berestov's a bigger name out there because he's the champion.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as walking down the streets with Peyton Manning here.
Wow.
You go into the bars, everyone wants signature, maybe not signature, but you're with a big time dude. Free alcohol, free this, whatever you want, it's on there.
Wow.
So Berestov, dude, it's kind of like that Russian thing, super Russian. We all get loaded up on this bus to go down to downtown Moscow. We were going to go eat, bowling, go drinking, all this crazy stuff. We get there downtown, we get off the bus. Berestov has a shirt on and then his Russian national jacket, right? Immediately takes his jacket off, takes his undershirt off. Mind you, it's 10 degrees out, right? Because it's November in Russia. Puts his jacket back on, doesn't zip it back up. Grabs a cigarette and just starts walking down the street with jacket open, bare-chested, smoking a cigarette. And I'm like, what is going on? Walks into the first bar he sees, walks behind the bar, pours himself a beer, passes him out, just continue on to the next one. The dude's not it's whatever you want to do.
That's crazy.
That sounds like honestly the experience of a lifetime, man.
It is.
So whatever you paid, it was worth it, I'm sure.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was extremely expensive, and I had a lot of help from a lot of good friends that helped me get over there.
Well, that's good.
But and from going from Russia back to here, my club is still a pretty Russian style gym. My training how I write programming, how we run a practice, how we do things is pretty Russian. I teach a pretty Russian style lift. It's kind of a blend of American and Russian. If you look at the two different nations, there is a pretty big difference of how the lifts are done and what their mentality and thought process is. Not saying one's better than the other. I just prefer to teach the Russian style. I understand it better, and it's worked out for us. If someone's got limb lengths that don't work out or anatomy or doesn't understand it, I'll kind of switch back to the double knee bend, which is more of an American style thing. But yeah, so we're definitely Russian style type.
Russian's a little more of what, straight pull?
Yeah, stay over the bar as long as you possibly can till death.
Yeah.
So if you guys know Mark Cannella out of Columbus weightlifting, I did my level 1 with him, and like the first thing you do is like snatch deadlift. I did a snatch deadlift. He looks at me, do it again. He looks at me. He's like, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Why are you lifting like a Russian?" Like he knew immediately that I had a Russian style pull. I was like, I told him. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I actually recognize you," because they watched the documentary on it. And he's like, "You're the drunk guy in the video." I'm like, "Yep, that is me." Yes. He's like, "Oh my gosh," but yeah. So like someone that was an American coach immediately was able to tell that it was a different style.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously been very interesting to watch the evolution within the last couple of years, of the American weightlifter, because it's obviously blown up. I mean, if you pay attention whatsoever, it's become a force to definitely be reckoned with. I mean, just between CJ alone.
CJ, I was about to say CJ and Kate Nye.
Yeah, CJ alone is looking that he could actually. I mean, he's literally breaking senior records as a junior.
Right. Well, he's sitting number 1 right now in the world in aerobic points.
Right. So it's pretty incredible to see.
Unbelievable athlete.
Yeah. I remember years ago, and this is, I don't know how well known the video is, and it could have just been a clip, but it was him in the back of a CrossFit gym at 13 years old, and he snatched like 235, just pounds, not even a weightlifter yet, just like in the back of a gym, and it's just like, oh, that kid's gonna do something.
Yeah, as soon as he like even started breaking into social media, you knew immediately, like, okay, if this kid can figure out that jerk a little bit, he's gonna be unstoppable. That was
like Kendrick, a little bit with the jerk,
Well, yeah, Kendrick had that crazy half step back squat, not squat jerk thing.
Yeah. And then now I think CJ's finally figuring his jerk out, and it's
now his jerk it's so weird to watch.
Like a push jerk or something.
It's not. Yeah, it's like, is it a push jerk or is it like? It's very odd looking, but he's so fast at it.
All I know is whenever that bar meets his hip, he's under it.
It's fast.
Like if you blink, you're like, oh, wow, that's.
He's got a pretty neat style to watch too. Yeah. Like he's not I don't think he's got a very traditional style lift. I think it's definitely CJ style.
I think you're going to see a lot of. Again, just look at the evolution of CrossFit, where, way back when I started, it was like, well, we went to regionals a whole bunch of years in a row, but now wouldn't even be close. Even at my quote prime, wouldn't even be close to the realm of where people are at now. So I think that's exactly what you're going to see. I mean, the entry totals for
I've already experienced it.
American Open, the series is obviously allowing people to get on the national stage, but it's more of a revenue generator than we talk about that.
But you still won't admit that,
right? So
they say they don't make any money,
but it's one of those things where you're going to see these entry totals just go up and up and up, creating this more, Maddie Rogers is a great example. Like she'll be quote just an average athlete in the next probably 10 years as far as weightlifting goes. I mean, she's a freak athlete right now in what we see, but I think in another decade, like she's going to be...
The tip of the spear just gets
sharper. Exactly.
Because you got more people to pull from.
Yeah, I've qualified for national meets, but my total right now, there's nothing like my total... Yeah, for sure. The totals have just gone up so much. Like at one point I was a national level athlete, but now I'm like... Yeah, right, kid. Good luck. Go hang. Maybe qualify for youths at like 29. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the other thing too, right? Is you also, and that's something that people need to understand, as well as especially getting into weightlifting, right? Because it is a defined sport. CrossFit evolved into this sport that, like, if you're gonna do it, you need to have the right mentality and like, I'm gonna do this because I enjoy the sport. Like, I have no, false ambitions that I'm going to be this like amazing. I just really enjoy it. It's like it's my zen time. It's I can focus on perfecting these 2 to 3 things. I can take my time doing it, and it helps me in other areas. So I think like people that get into weightlifting, like know that if you're gonna do it, like know that you can perfect it and still not be the best. You know,
you're probably not going to be the best.
Exactly. Yeah, well, especially if you're not 11.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You know, you see these 14, 15-year-old kids now that are like putting up insane numbers. You know, so it's the deck's kind of stacked against you if you're around our age and you're just starting out.
Yeah.
You know, because you really, it's like gymnastics. You know, you got to start when you're really young and learn the movements, and that's why CJ's so good. You know, he started so young, and he's got the mobility and the speed, and he's got a good coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That helps. Yeah, that helps a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, to have all those factors at once, and that's what. Yeah, to be a, an elite level weightlifter, and like kind of like you said, like at some point, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, you're as much work as you put in, and as how good your coach is. Some people are just not going to be, right?
It's just like,
and it's not just reality.
Just think about Mark and Kyle Yurchak.
Oh yeah.
We're at regionals one year. What year was that? It was like 2000. It might have been
11 or I think it was 12 because I think Rich just won the games.
And it was like, and we're sitting there, and there's our buddy Kyle, and
you just gotta kind of know our relationship. He's a funny guy. And we like to have fun, and he just started at the gym, and you know how when you first get into CrossFit, you're like, I'm going to the games.
Oh yeah, duh.
And Rich Froning's literally it's like a fat bar, and he's like the finish of the workout was like this long lunge. And he's lunging down the Columbus Expo.
Almost passed out in that workout.
And he's going unbroken, just like, and I think Dan Bailey was actually out in front of him. And like he overtakes him, and the crowd's like, wah! And I just look at Kyle, and I'm just like, I could never make you that good.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest here.
It's just one of those, but it's fun. It's funny because it's true.
Yeah.
But it really is though, because you have to take into account, take inventory of your own life, and figure out why you're actually doing something.
Right. You know, even more like practical example, I think everyone can wrap their head around. If you're 5'4", you're not going to be a professional basketball player. I'm sorry.
Whoa, hold on.
You know,
I don't have a chance.
But especially if you're 5'4" and you're white.
Spud dude, come on.
One of many.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things. Like you have to have realistic expectations. And one of the things we do here, that's kind of evolved over our 6 years in business, is we really try to have that honest conversation up front with people. Like, hey, look, if you're classified as morbidly obese, like we're probably not going to start with muscle ups. Like we gotta set the expectations,
right?
Like and have a realistic, like, hey, look, we just need to dial in your food, and all these things first. And weightlifting, I'm sure whenever you guys, again, I don't really have as much to do with the weightlifting as you guys are doing. Whenever you guys start with people, it's probably with a PVC pipe, a dowel rod, or an empty barbell. You know, it's not we're gonna load up the bar with 100 kilograms and let's see if you can get it.
Yeah.
Like my technique gets better when it gets heavier. It's like I don't know about that.
Yeah.
You know?
I'll be able to do it later. Yeah. What actually, that's a good question. What does your kind of process look like for somebody coming, starting out brand new?
So never touched the barbell?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm pretty on the spot, meaning. So first time, it obviously depends if they're youth, older, but if an average, 19-year-old kid walks in and says, hey, I want to become a weightlifter. Okay, we're going to start with some really simple, probably what you guys do in CrossFit, just athletic ability, see kind of how they move, if they understand body awareness, mobility, start with some simple things. Hey, we're going to teach a strict press, an air squat, and, a push-up. You do those 3 things, you can tell a lot about somebody. Kind of like, okay, this guy, I'm going to have a little bit more work to do. We're going to have to literally teach him how to know what his knees are compared to his hips type thing. And that first day, within 30 minutes, I can get a game plan for that person. I don't do the same thing for everybody. There's just no way. For me, I have the ability, since we're a smaller club, I can take someone and kind of do exactly what they need to do to become a weightlifter. Like I said, one person... Day one, they might get a bar in their hand. Like, oh wow, okay, this guy understands his body. I can teach him a deadlift today.
Especially if they're in high school and they've had some sort of coaching.
Yeah.
Body awareness is probably the biggest part of it.
That's what I said. Yeah, body awareness. Like, if I say, lift your butt, and they, stick their head up, I'm like, oh no, put your butt back down, or lift your butt. Like, then it's super simple. Like I said, I always tell people like, hey, I'm just going to see how you move today, and then I'm going to get a game plan from there. And that's what I do. And then, you know, we don't get a lot of brand new, never touched the barbell people at the club. You know, we definitely have more of CrossFitters that, hey, I want to get better at weightlifting. So to me, is way worse. I'd rather just have somebody from scratch. I'm sure I would imagine you too.
Yeah,
someone
if you don't have to correct bad habits.
Bad habits, and then the big thing for me is teaching differently than what they've ever had. Right? And a lot of them come from the CrossFit world, not knocking CrossFit at all, but they come in and they lift a certain way that most CrossFit gyms teach. You know, the double knee bend is pretty normal. I'm like, okay, guess what? We're going to scratch all that, and you're going to learn how to lift the way I want you to lift. And usually the first 2 weeks they hate me. Their lifts are terrible, right? And they're like, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. I'm like, give me one more week. You know, and then things start to click. We're going to teach you some different things. We're going to have different cues. So for me, I almost rather have someone brand new that I can put in positions that I want. They understand my cues right off the get-go. It's easier, to be honest. But, of course, you know, someone that comes in that's already had weightlifting experience, I want them to. We've had great luck with that. There's a kid named Michael. He's from Nick Your Anchor's gym up in Indiana. Came in with a 60K snatch, and in 3 months we went from 60 to 90. Oh, wow. So Michael, and he's been weightlifting for a long time, and it's not that Nick Your Anchor was a bad coach. It's just what I've taught Mike is different way to think about it, and it's starting to click for him. So, you know, we've had really good luck or success with both ends. Brand new compared to someone that's been doing it for years.
Nice. That's a sign of a good coach.
Absolutely.
No, good athletes.
Well,
you know.
Oh, too. I mean, that's a big part of it. Sometimes you just get very lucky, and well, you're stupid strong, and you have.
And yeah, I think for us, we've been. I don't know if you guys watch. If you guys aren't on our Instagram or Facebook, our Asher, he's that little 10-year-old kid that we have.
Yeah.
That's like going back to that CJ Cummins. When I look at Asher, I'm like, this kid, if he wants to do this sport, he could be extremely well. Yeah. He's been doing it for 1 year. Qualified for youth nationals. He's like sitting third at the start list. Has the most amazing mobility, and he understands the lift to the point where it doesn't make sense already. Like I can go, Asher, what was wrong with their lift? And at 10 years old, doing it actually he was 9. I was like, what was wrong with that lift? And he'll be like, oh, they bent their arms too early. I'm like, oh, okay. He goes, they started with their toes off the ground. I'm like, how are you watching this already? Like, he understands. He can give the right cues right off the bat. I'm like, this kid is special. He understands it, and he's got the greatest attitude on earth. Yeah. Smiles. You know, he's one of the kids that gives you a hug. You know, hey, coach. And then when he leaves, thanks, coach. Like, every day, great attitude, fun to be around. And that's the kid that I'm looking at. I'm like, okay, he understands this sport to the point where he's already, like, understanding it better than me. It's like, okay, cool. This kid's going to be special.
That's great. Yeah, and that'll be next weekend, 27th, right?
Yeah. So I just need to find him a better coach. I'm like, I don't want to ruin this kid. No, I'm just joking. It's like, wow, he's so
good.
good.
Thing, you know, you have these feeder systems, right? And if you can get him to a certain point, then who knows?
No, knocking myself there. But no, I think, you know, we can do a lot of stuff with him. I'm excited to see where him and my whole youth team. We have a huge youth team. I enjoy working with the kids a lot. They're a lot funner.
You have probably your demographics definitely a little bit younger. As far as, you know, I know just our general gym is a little bit older gym than where you have a lot of kids and a lot of youth athletes.
I don't know, 8, 9, 10 dedicated youth people that come, you know, youth lifters, not juniors, youth.
Right. Yeah.
And then we have juniors too. But we do have, you know, I don't know, another 10 that are in the 45 plus range.
Right.
So, but the youth thing has just somehow blown up for us. I don't know, maybe they look at me and are like, oh, that kid's my age. So.
Well, it's great. I mean, again, you find not just find your niche, but you find something you can, you know, take your passion and pass that off to someone else, especially at an early age where they're very, you know, formidable and things like that, and it's a great thing for them. So
yeah, kids are fun, man.
Yeah.
You know, and that, like I said, a lot of times, even if they have a bad day lifting, they're usually still smiling. And that's so much, as a coach, that's a lot. It's a better environment to be in than your senior athlete that has a bad day, and then, you know, they hate weightlifting and they're never going to do it again because they miss an 80% snatch. It's like, bro, come on. Like, chill out, you'll be fine. So, but I enjoy my senior athletes just as much, and the senior athletes, you definitely can push harder. You know, you can get on them. We run we're a sports team. We're not a fitness organization. We are a sports team. So it's a coach to athlete relationship. We have practices. We have academic requirements for the kids. We run that very strict style thing. And I can get on those senior athletes a little bit more and push them a little bit beyond their boundary or what they want to go a lot more than that kid. So that part's fun too. Like, we have some senior athletes like that are strong, that are breaking in that state record area, getting on that national level, like, okay, well, let's see what we can do. Let's really push it. And that's fun too. You want to see big weights moved.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys got an event coming up, right?
Yeah, man. So July 14th at 1 p.m. At our home gym at Triple Crown Athletic, we're doing a open house and charity blitz. What we're doing is we're trying to raise money for an organization called Kids to Camp. They're based out of Cincinnati, and they send at-risk youth, underprivileged kids, some special needs kids to sports and athletic camps, trying to get them involved into something, and they even get paired up with a mentor. So Kids to Camp runs their own camps, but if there's a kid that's underprivileged or at risk and they want to go to a camp that Kids to Camp doesn't offer, they write a check and send the kid, and then they get paired up with a mentor. It's a pretty cool organization. So we're trying to raise money for them. We're doing raffle prizes, silent auctions, just some random giveaways, split the pot. Food truck's going to be there. Hopefully Braxton's will be there. We haven't dialed that in yet. So if you guys like beer, we're also gonna do some weightlifting stuff too. We're gonna do some demonstrations, a free coaching seminar. What else are we doing? Some discounted rates, a power snatch competition with a prize. Nice. So if you are experienced in weightlifting, if you want to come out, we're doing a little 3-minute clock. Power snatch as much as you can. At the end of the day, whoever's got the highest Sinclair, male and female, will get a little prize. We got some pretty cool stuff that's going to be there for raffle prizes and auction items. Rep Fitness is donating some bars, some sandbags. We got season passes at Perfect North Slope, tons and tons of booze. So if you like bourbon, we're going to have a lot of bourbon baskets, tons of gift cards, really random stuff, man, from a local deli gift card to, like I said, Perfect North passes to Reds tickets, Full Orange Freedom, a lot of fitness supplements, Iron Mind stuff. It's just a gaggle of stuff. So cool. Trying to, whatever you like, even if you're not in the fitness thing, we'd like for you to come out, help support Kids to Camp. There's also going to be a pet rescue on site, Lucky Tails Pet Rescue. So if we're looking for a furry friend that needs a good home, they're going to be out there. So we're just trying to be in the community as much as we can. I really push that with my team. Yeah. Like we do, community outreach. We do, get out in the community and be a part of something more than, sitting on the couch and weightlifting, right? Be a positive impact to your community. So that's what we're trying to push. Man.
Well, it sounds like a fantastic establishment, and I want to thank you for obviously coming out today, taking your time. Taking time out of your day. We always end the conversation with just a pretty quick question. Just what is your definition of success?
Ooh, what is your definition of success? Man, you put me on the spot, dude. You could have given me like an hour notice. Definition of success. If you think you've made it, if you think you are successful, you probably aren't, right? I think that the definition of success is to constantly want to do better. I don't know if that makes sense. It makes sense in my head. But if you're like, okay, I've made it. I opened up my barbell club. I'm successful. Nah, man, that's not it. You want to keep going. If you have that mind to keep driving, keep going, that's what makes you successful in life. Not, thinking that you did it and that's the end. Just that want to constantly be better and do better, that full maximum effort 24/7 till the day you die.
Awesome. I love it, man. No, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
I appreciate you again coming out, man.
This is super cool.
And thank you all for listening to Triumph Every Day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, and everywhere your favorite podcasts are found. Find us at TriumphStrength.net, on Instagram at Triumph Strength, and Facebook at Facebook.com/TriumphStrength. Thanks again, guys.
Yay.